The summer heat was unbearable, and the streets of the city were almost empty. Karen was walking her dog Sam when she noticed something strange. Sam had been acting odd, and she couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. He kept shaking his body and trying to jump around. Karen could not wait any longer. She had been left clueless in the waiting room for almost an hour now. She had no idea how her beloved dog Sam was doing and what had been going on with him exactly. She started knocking on the door of the vet's office, desperate for him to at least give her something. And to her surprise, the vet actually opened the door for her. But Karen was immediately taken aback by how he looked. The man had clearly been crying. There were still tears in his eyes, in fact. He tried to talk to Karen, wanting to explain himself, but she gave him no chance. She had a bad feeling about all this and pushed herself past him. Karen's mouth fell open when she got into the room, and she quickly understood why the vet had been crying. How could this have happened, she wondered. If only she had gotten to the vet sooner. But what was going on with Sam? What was the creature stuck to his back? And why was the vet crying after the ordeal was done? Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. Karen was confused when she first noticed her loyal animal companion Sam's strange behavior. For as long as she could remember, Sam had been a very calm and gentle dog, never making much of a fuss. But during one of their regular walk, he suddenly started to behave like he was stung by a wasp or something. The dog was jumping and trashing around uncontrollably, and it was anything but easy for Karen to control Sam. The dog was not a puppy anymore and had quite a bit of mass and strength, and she was only a small, thin woman. It did not take Sam long to put enough force on the rope that Karen simply could not hold on to him anymore. The dog broke free and immediately started to make a run for it. Karen was running after her dog, screaming for somebody to stop him. But anytime anybody looked around, the dog had already passed them. Some people did make the effort to chase the animal down, but all were outspent by Sam and gave. But Karen could not give up. She had to get a hold of her dog again and calm him down. There was clearly something wrong. Karen was in luck that Sam seemingly started to get tired. It was anything but easy for a dog like him to get around quickly for an extended period. Sam was a Havanese dog with a lot of hair, which was heavy to carry around. And so, after about 10 minutes of running and chasing, Sam finally slowed down enough for Karen to catch up with him. She quickly grabbed hold of the leash and tied it to a nearby lamppost. This was the only way she could ensure that Sam would not just run away again when he caught his breath. It was clear that the dog was deadly tired right now, but still very affected by whatever was going on with him. He was still making sharp movements and even rolling on the ground. And this was the moment Karen finally saw something on the animal. Around the backside area, the hairs lifted up just enough during one of the rolls to reveal something that did not look like skin. It did not look like anything she had seen before. In one of the brief moments that Sam was standing still, she moved the hair out of the way to get a better look at it. Sam must have realized what was going on as he immediately stood completely still and let Karen take her time. It was most likely clear to the dog that he was not going to get this pest off by himself and that he needed some help. Karen was more than happy to help, but she did not really know how at first. She saw that there was some sort of small animal hanging on the back of her dog. When she touched it, it didn't react. But when she tried to pull it off, it became clear that the creature was very much stuck to her dog, and every time she would pull on it a little bit, Sam would let out a small cry of pain. This was clearly hurting him to some extent. Karen was very unsure of how to proceed. She would like to pull the animal off her dog with all her might, but who knew how attached it really was? And to what it was attached exactly, maybe she would pull with some of Sam's hair or skin. And maybe it would not come off at all. And then all she would be doing was hurting her poor dog. Feeling like she might be out of her depth here, she decides to call her standard vet for advice. By now, there have also gathered some bystanders who seem very interested in whatever is stuck to Sam's backside, but none of them have any idea of what they are dealing with. And from the sounds of things, neither has the vet's assistant. She makes an appointment for Karen to come in later that day to have Sam checked out. But it seems potentially dangerous to leave this unknown animal on Sam for that duration. And luckily, the vet has some idea of how to get it off. Instead of pulling on the creature, Karen needs it to let go on his own. It needs to be repelled from Sam's back. Karen's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the bottle of dish soap, her mind racing with worry. She carefully dripped the liquid onto the mysterious creature clinging to Sam's back, whispering words of comfort to her dog, who looked back at her with confused, trusting eyes. She gently rubbed the soap around the edges of the creature, hoping it would loosen its grip. But the creature remained steadfast, adhering to Sam's fur as if it were a part of him. Next, Karen fetched a lemon from her kitchen, slicing it in half with a determined slash. She squeezed the lemon, letting the juice trickle down onto the creature. Sam twitched at the sensation, and Karen's heart ached to see him in distress. She watched intently, hoping for any sign of movement from the creature, but it remained as immobile as a stone, unaffected by the citrus acidity. Karen's brows furrowed in frustration as she surveyed her array of home remedies. Vinegar, baking soda, even olive oil, all laid out on the floor like a desperate alchemist's ingredients. She tried each in turn, dabbing and applying them to the creature, but it was like trying to move a mountain with a feather. The creature, whatever it was, seemed impervious to her efforts, gripping onto Sam's back with an unseen tenacity. Running her fingers through her hair in exasperation, Karen pondered other possible solutions. She thought about ice packs, maybe to numb the creature, or even warm compressors to coax it into loosening its hold. She looked down at Sam, his eyes reflecting a mix of discomfort and loyalty, and knew she couldn't give up. But each remedy she tried ended in the same result. The creature remained firmly in place. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the living room, Karen sat back on her heels, feeling defeated. None of the home remedies had worked. The creature was as attached as ever. She could see Sam's energy waning, his usual vibrant demeanor dimmed by the ordeal. With a heavy heart, Karen realized that this was beyond her ability to solve, and professional help was urgently needed. Outside, a small crowd had begun to form around Karen and Sam. Curious eyes peered at the odd sight, whispers and murmurs floating through the air. Children pointed and their parents hushed them, but their own intrigue was unmistakable. Karen felt a surge of protectiveness over Sam as more and more people stopped to observe, their presence a tangible weight of curiosity and concern. "Have you tried oil?" one man suggested, peering closely at the creature. "Maybe it's like a tick," a woman offered, holding her child's hand. Each passerby seemed to have their own theory and remedy, ranging from plausible to absurd. Karen listened, nodding politely, though she felt a growing sense of helplessness. The cacophony of advice only muddled her thoughts, making the situation seem more daunting. Among the crowd, a few kind souls tried to assist, offering to hold Sam's leash or fetch water for him. Yet, others in the crowd seemed to thrive on the drama, making exaggerated guesses about the creature, escalating the situation into a spectacle. Karen appreciated the helpful few, but found herself increasingly frustrated with the sensationalism of others, complicating an already stressful situation. The buzz of the crowd, the heat of the day, and the worry for Sam converged into a whirlwind of anxiety for Karen. She felt her breath quicken and her palms sweat. Each suggestion from the crowd felt like a hammer to her already fragmented thoughts. She needed to act, and fast, but the overwhelming input from the bystanders made it hard to think clearly. Finally, with a deep breath, Karen made her decision. She thanked the crowd for their concern and gently urged them to give her and Sam some space. Clutching Sam's leash tightly, she turned towards the vet's clinic, her mind set. It was time to seek professional help. The crowd parted, their murmurs fading into the background as Karen walked away, determined to find a solution for her beloved dog. Karen, with a newfound resolve, quickly gathered her essentials and secured Sam's leash. As they stepped out, She cast a final glance at the dissipating crowd, their faces still etched with curiosity and concern. Sam, sensing the urgency, trotted alongside her, his movements slightly hampered by the unwelcome burden on his back. Karen's pace was brisk, her mind focused solely on reaching the vet as quickly as possible. As they walked, Karen's mind was a whirlwind of worry. She glanced down at Sam every few steps, her heart aching at his discomfort. The streets, usually bustling with life, seemed to mirror her solemn mood, offering a quiet backdrop to her racing thoughts. Each step towards the vet's office was laden with a mix of dread and hope, the weight of uncertainty heavy on her shoulders. What could it be? Karen wondered silently, her gaze fixed on the mysterious creature. Her mind raced through possibilities. An exotic parasite? A foreign object? Something more sinister? Each hypothesis seemed more improbable than the last, yet none provided a comforting answer. The creature's stubborn refusal to detach added to the enigma, deepening Karen's concern for Sam's well-being. Throughout their journey, Sam's discomfort was evident. He would occasionally stop to try and reach the creature, whimpering softly, his usual playful gait reduced to a reluctant shuffle. Karen offered gentle reassurance, stroking his head, her heart heavy with empathy. She felt helpless, witnessing his distress, knowing that only the vet could provide the relief he so desperately needed. Finally, the familiar sign of the vet's office came into view. Karen felt a mix of relief and apprehension as she opened the door, the familiar jingle of the bell sounding almost ominous. The receptionist looked up, her expression turning to one of concern at the sight of Sam. Karen, with Sam by her side, stepped into the clinic, her eyes searching for the vet, her mind filled with questions and a desperate hope for answers. The moment they entered, a veterinary assistant approached and gently led Sam to the examination room. Karen's heart raced as she watched them disappear behind the door. She knew the urgency was necessary, but couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The assistant's swift movements and serious expression told her that they understood the gravity of the situation, offering a small solace in the midst of her growing anxiety. Karen found herself alone in the waiting room, the silence punctuated only by the soft ticking of the clock and the occasional rustle of magazines. The room, usually a place of brief waits, now felt like a holding cell for her worries. She looked around at the empty chairs, feeling the weight of solitude as her gaze returned to the closed door of the examination room. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo loudly in Karen's ears, amplifying the slow passage of time. She tried to read a magazine, but the words blurred before her eyes, her mind too preoccupied with Sam. The waiting room's calm ambience contrasted sharply with the storm of worries raging in her mind, making each minute feel like an hour. To distract herself, Karen began to reminisce about her years with Sam. From the day she brought the tiny puppy home, through the countless walks, and every joyful greeting he had given her. These memories brought a bittersweet smile to her face. It was these moments of love and joy that intensified her resolve to see Sam through this ordeal, no matter what it took. As time wore on, Karen's initial worry morphed into a restless impatience. She stood up, paced, then sat down again, her actions mirroring the turmoil inside her. She glanced repeatedly at the examination room door, willing it to open, longing for any news about Sam. The lack of information only fueled her imagination, conjuring scenarios that increased her heart rate and her desire for answers. The waiting room's stillness felt more oppressive as time dragged on. The quiet was punctuated only by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of the clinic beyond. Karen sat there, enveloped in the silence, feeling it amplify her fears and uncertainties. The lack of activity and conversation in the room only served to heighten her sense of isolation and worry for Sam. Gradually, other pet owners trickled into the waiting room, each absorbed in their own concerns. Karen observed them, noticing their anxious glances and whispered conversations. In an attempt to find some solace, she struck up a conversation with a woman sitting nearby who was cradling a small, trembling cat. They exchanged words of empathy and support, but Karen's heart remained heavy, her thoughts firmly fixed on Sam. As the clock continued its relentless march, the absence of any update from the vet's office became increasingly unbearable for Karen. She approached the receptionist a few times. Each query for information met with the same response. "The vet is still examining your dog. We'll let you know as soon as we have any news." This repetitive refrain did little to ease Karen's escalating worry. With each passing moment, Karen's mind began to race with a myriad of distressing possibilities. What if the creature was dangerous or poisonous? What if they couldn't remove it without hurting Sam? These thoughts spiraled uncontrollably, each one more unsettling than the last, painting a grim tapestry of fear and worst-case scenarios in her already anxious mind. Finally, Karen's patience reached its limit. She stood up, a determined look etched on her face. The waiting had become unbearable, and she needed answers, not just for her peace of mind, but for Sam's well-being. She walked purposefully towards the examination room, ready to demand an explanation, to see Sam, to confront whatever situation lay beyond those doors. Her resolve was clear. She needed to know what was happening to her beloved dog. Karen's knuckles rapped sharply on the examination room door, each knock echoing her mounting tension. There was a brief, heavy silence before the door creaked open. Her heart was pounding, a mix of fear and urgency propelling her forward. She was no longer just a worried pet owner. She was a woman on a mission, driven by the profound bond she shared with Sam. The door swung open and Karen was met with the unexpected sight of the vet, his eyes red and glistening with tears. This startling image stopped her in her tracks. The sight of a professional, usually composed and reassuring in such a state, multiplied her fears tenfold. "What happened?" she asked, her voice a mix of worry and demand, as her mind raced to understand the reason behind his tears. The vet hesitated, seemingly struggling to find the right words. But Karen's patience had worn thin. Gently but firmly, she pushed past him, her eyes scanning the room for Sam. She needed to see her dog, to understand the situation firsthand. The vet's emotional state only intensified the urgency pulsing through her, driving her to seek the truth that lay within the room. Inside, the room was not as she expected. Instead of the chaotic emergency scene she had braced herself for, the atmosphere was calm, almost serene. The examination table was empty, the usual array of veterinary tools neatly arranged. It was a stark contrast to the tumultuous storm of emotions Karen was experiencing. Her eyes darted around, searching for Sam, for some clue to explain the vet's tears and the unsettling calm of the room. Then, from a side door, Sam trotted in, his tail wagging energetically. Karen's heart leaped with relief at the sight of him, lively and unharmed. She knelt down, and Sam bounded into her arms, his familiar, joyful energy washing over her like a balm. The tension in her body melted away as she embraced him, the fear and uncertainty of the past hours dissipating in the warmth of their reunion. As Karen hugged Sam, she noticed something unusual, a bald patch on his back where the creature had been. It was a stark, hairless spot amidst his otherwise fluffy coat, looking almost like a scar of the recent ordeal. Puzzled and concerned, she gently ran her fingers over the patch, feeling the smooth skin beneath. This unexpected discovery deepened the mystery, urging her to seek answers. Karen turned to the vet, her expression a mix of relief and determination. "What happened here? What was that thing on Sam?" she asked, her voice firm. The urgency in her eyes mirrored the seriousness of her query. She needed to understand what had transpired during those anxious hours of waiting, what had been done to Sam, and most importantly, what had been attached to him. The vet, wiping his eyes, looked at Karen with a mixture of professional composure and personal hesitation. He seemed to be struggling with the weight of the information he held. "It's a bit complicated," he started, his voice faltering. Karen sensed his reluctance, but her need for clarity and truth about Sam's condition overpowered the patience she typically reserved for such situations. Karen's resolve didn't waver. "Please, I need to know. He's not just my pet. He's my family," she implored, her voice tinged with emotion. Her unwavering gaze and heartfelt plea slowly chipped away at the vet's hesitance. Sensing the depth of her bond with Sam and her genuine need for answers, the vet sighed deeply, seemingly preparing himself to disclose the full extent of what had happened. The vet finally began. "The creature on Sam was unlike anything I've seen before." His words trailed off momentarily as he collected his thoughts. "It was an extraordinary case," he continued, his tone indicating that what he was about to reveal was as surprising to him as it would be to Karen. She braced herself, her mind racing to grasp the impending revelation about the mysterious creature that had so profoundly affected their lives. The vet took a deep breath before speaking. "The creature on Sam's back was a rodent, but not just any rodent," he began. "It's a species that's native to a remote part of Africa, rarely seen by humans." Karen's eyes widened in disbelief. How could such an animal end up in her neighborhood, let alone on her dog's back? The revelation was as astonishing as it was perplexing. Karen stood in stunned silence, trying to process the vet's words. "An African rodent? Here!" she echoed, her voice a mix of astonishment and confusion. The vet nodded solemnly, his expression reflecting the rarity of such an occurrence. Karen's mind spun with questions and amazement. The small creature that had caused so much worry was, in fact, a rare animal from another continent. "The rodent somehow got tangled in Sam's hair," the vet continued. "Its small size and the density of Sam's coat created a perfect trap. It was a freak accident, truly unexpected." Karen glanced at Sam, imagining the small creature struggling amidst the thick fur. It was a bizarre twist of fate, one that seemed almost unbelievable. The vet's voice grew softer. "Unfortunately, the rodent didn't survive. It had passed away by the time we could examine it closely." Karen felt a pang of sadness for the tiny creature. Its unexpected journey had ended in tragedy, a stark reminder of the fragile balance of nature and the unexpected ways in which different worlds can intersect. Karen mulled over the strange series of events. How did an African rodent end up here on Sam? She wondered aloud. The vet shook his head. That's the mystery. It's possible it was an escaped exotic pet, or it somehow hitched a ride unnoticed. But we may never know for sure. Karen gazed at Sam, grateful for his safety, but left with unanswered questions about the remarkable incident that had brought them to this moment. Karen sat quietly in the vet's office, slowly coming to terms with the surreal reality of the past few hours. The idea of a rare African rodent finding its way to her dog in a suburban neighborhood seemed like something out of a storybook. She felt a mix of emotions, relief, confusion, and a tinge of sadness for the creature. This was certainly an experience that would stay with her for a long time. As Karen and Sam made their way home, their story had already begun to ripple through the neighborhood. Curious neighbors approached, eager to hear about the strange encounter. The local community, usually quiet and reserved, buzzed with the unusual news. Karen found herself retelling the story, each iteration helping her to process the event and accept the bizarre turn their lives had taken. Back home, Karen's focus shifted to Sam's recovery. She carefully tended to the bald patch on his back, ensuring it was clean and protected. She watched him closely for any signs of distress, but Sam seemed to bounce back with his usual resilience. His cheerful demeanor and wagging tail reassured Karen that, despite the ordeal, he was going to be just fine. In the quiet moments, Karen reflected on the entire experience. She thought about how quickly an ordinary day could turn into an extraordinary one. This incident had taught her about the unpredictability of life and the importance of being prepared for the unexpected. It also deepened her appreciation for the bond she shared with Sam, a connection that proved strong even in the face of unforeseen challenges. As the day came to a close, Karen found comfort in the normalcy of her routine with Sam. Sitting together, enjoying the peaceful evening, she felt a sense of closure. The health and happiness of her beloved dog were all that truly mattered. The day's events, while startling, had ended well, and for that, she was profoundly grateful. In Sam's contented presence, Karen found her peace. As the evening wore on, Karen found herself replaying the day's events in her mind. The presence of the African rodent in her quiet neighborhood, how it ended up on Sam, and its unfortunate demise. These were mysteries that seemed to have no clear answers. These lingering questions floated in her thoughts, a puzzle that was intriguing yet unsettling, leaving her with a sense of wonder and bafflement. Gradually, Karen came to accept that some mysteries in life remain unsolved. She realized that not every question has a clear answer, and sometimes embracing the unknown is part of the journey. This acceptance brought a sense of peace, allowing her to let go of the need for explanations. She understood that the most important thing was that Sam was safe and healthy. Sitting beside Sam, Karen felt a deep sense of gratitude. The day had been a roller coaster of emotions, but it ended with Sam unharmed and content. She stroked his fur, each gentle touch reinforcing her thankfulness for his well-being. The ordeal had reminded her to cherish the present moments, to appreciate the simple joys of life with her loyal companion. Karen thought about the day's strange events and how they had unfolded. It was a reminder of life's unpredictability and the extraordinary occurrences that can happen in the most ordinary of days. This experience had added an unusual chapter to her life story, one filled with suspense, fear, and ultimately, relief. It was a day that would remain etched in her memory, a story to recount for years to come. As Karen prepared for bed, she looked forward to a new day. The events of today would become a part of her past, a remarkable story to share, but tomorrow held the promise of a fresh start. With Sam by her side, she felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. Their bond had been tested and had emerged stronger, a comforting thought as she drifted off to sleep, looking forward to the adventures yet to come with her beloved Sam.